Well, hey, I'm Ashley Reynolds. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope your summer is off to a great start. I know it hasn't officially started, but anything after Memorial Day just feels like summer, especially when you have the Ozarks humidity mixed in with it. All right, so this week on Scam School, we are talking with Steve Wiseman with the website Scamicide, and we're going to be talking about data breaches and what you can do, if anything, about them.
Okay, well, let's start with this IRS letter. The confusing part, and it sounds like there's several confusing items here, but more than 1 million letters went out that were legit, but it's really confusing.
Extremely so. And in fact, what was interesting was uh, because of my work in scams and with Scamicide, people will contact me. And so I had a couple of accountants who contacted me with the letter, and they were pretty convinced that the letter was a scam. And there were good reasons for it. And the IRS really didn't do a very good job of it. The idea is there was a law passed to make more checks done electronically from the IRS. So the IRS was contacting people who were getting refunds who needed perhaps to update or provide account information, bank account information, which is entirely legitimate if it's coming from the IRS. Turning it to a scammer, not so much. Making it even worse was the fact that they also made a mistake with large numbers of these letters going out to people, including some clients of mine who were not due a refund. So it really looked scammy. But the scammiest part of it was we always tell people if you get an email, a phone call, a text message from the IRS, it's a scam because they don't use those means of communication. But a letter could be legitimate. The letter, however, and what got me and the other accountants considering it to be a scam, is it had a QR code in it. Now, one reason that the IRS has generally not used QR codes in the past is QR codes are used by scammers when they put them in emails, for instance, to avoid security software. So there's good security AI software that will pick up what appear to be scams, but they don't look into QR codes, so they can't read that as part of it. So here we had something with no announcement that the IRS is saying we need this banking information. If you do use the QR code, it will take you to a site looks like the IRS, and it may be the IRS. The problem is it may not be. And again, with AI, the letters can look perfect, the QR code is fine, and the website that it takes you to can also look legitimate. So what was interesting was what my advice was, and what the accounting associations are saying now is follow my motto, trust me, you can't trust anyone. The letter may be legitimate, but it also may not be because there are scammers taking advantage of this and sending out these letters to people and getting the bank account information. So if you do get one of these, and you are one of the people who is supposed to get it, not someone who wasn't owed money, go to your IRS account. And if you don't have an IRS account, it's a good thing to set up and it's easy to do. And it's a good way to check if indeed you do need to provide information. And then by going independently there, you're going to be able to be sure that you're providing the information properly.
Ugh, I just, man, I hate how because for so long the school of thought never changed when even when we used to say the IRS will never call you, the IRS will
Yeah.
never call you. But I have seen news releases from the IRS when they've hired third party collection agencies
Yes.
and they might call you. And I hate how it's not just this steady stream of the same information over and over because when you cause confusion, things like this can happen.
Yeah, and it gives the advantage to the scammers. And in fact, you're right. What will happen, the IRS has hired collection agencies in the past who would do it. Now, they would always first contact people with a letter so that they could know that it's coming. But here again, anytime you get a call, regardless of whether it says it's from the IRS or any collection agency, you never know who really is calling you. So it's these days you just got to be careful. You've got to confirm everything.
Yeah, and when it's top of mind because we just paid taxes and I'm a
Yep,
1099 queen because I have all these side hustles, so I always owe.
me too.
And I think it's smart to pay the IRS with your credit card versus like the installment payments, just then pay. It's like you owe yourself essentially, it's
Yeah.
just the best route. But when you pay the IRS with a credit card, it takes you to another third party website that the IRS has an agreement with, and
Yep.
it's like you are putting thousands of dollars through this website and giving your credit card information. And it just makes me nervous.
Well, unfortunately, it's it's correct that you are nervous. One of my mottos again is even paranoids have enemies. And these days, all of these services are vulnerable and they're targets for scammers, and the AI is making it easier for them to scam. So yeah, we all have, good reason to be nervous when we do these things.
In my 20-year career, I don't remember seeing so many programs, pushed out to help taxpayers. And so it's not a surprise, but it is concerning to us.
Tyler Hatcher is a real IRS agent. He showed me this bogus IRS email. It's from a crook. They stole the IRS logo. It's about your stimulus payment. It says you need to update your bank info so you can get $800. Here's a scam text. It says to respond for your stimulus payment.
We're not going to contact you unsolicited through an email or a text, right? We do make phone calls and we do send letters. And those phone calls, 99% of the time, are going to be to set up an in-person interview so that we can show you our credentials, you can see our identification, and you are in fact talking with a representative of IRS or IRS criminal investigation in this case.
Swindlers will say you need to pay a fee to get your payment. Do not do it.
The government's not going to ask you to, run down to Walmart and get a money order and send it. We don't do that. No government entity does that.
Hatcher says the bad guys keep them busy. The IRS Criminal Investigation Unit has a 98% conviction rate.
One of the biggest problems that we have, for your news station in Springfield, Missouri, these people aren't there. 90% of the time it's in a foreign country. But we have had some pretty good success.
But just to bring it home, you said log into your IRS account and then you're really going to know what's going on.
Exactly. That's the nice, safe thing. You just can't trust it. You're not going to be able to find out if it's legit or not. There are ways that you can check when you go to a site. There are domain registry sites, so you could find out who actually owns it, but you don't need to go to that trouble. Just go to your IRS account.
Yes. Well, moving on, let's talk about this data breach. I was having lunch with a friend, I think it was, I don't know, just last week, and she said it really messed up with her finals. She
Yeah.
teaches a class. So
Yeah, this is true. The company that does Canvas, it's used by millions and millions of users around the country, and it was certainly no coincidence that the hacking group Shiny Hunters, which has been a very effective ransomware group, attacked at this time when students are taking final exams, and they took everything offline. What happens with ransomware is once they get in, they encrypt everything. No one can get at any data and until a ransom is paid. And in fact, in this instance, the company that owns Canvas, Instructure is called, they did pay the ransom. Now, we hope for honor among thieves in that they said, well, we have destroyed the data that we have. Here's the problem. And the problem is, the good side of it is there was no personal information like credit cards or anything else or social security numbers. So it's not going to readily lead to identity theft. However, what a lot of these scams turn into is scammers aware that people know that they're part of a data breach. And so you get an email, a letter, a text message that appears to relate to the data breach, including what rights you may have and what services they're going to provide, but you can't tell if it's accurate or not. And so there again, you really have to confirm any communication that you get. In the case of this Canvas, you're probably not going to be getting any money worthwhile on this, but you would go to their website directly. To me, one of the more interesting things is The technological hackers and the sophistication that they show when they do these major data breaches are incredible. But this group, Shiny Hunters, doesn't do any of it. What they do, and very effectively, and it's taking down big companies, is what we call social engineering, which is just psychological trickery. They gather information, which has been much easier with AI and data brokers today, where they can get information about the companies they're going to attack. They learn the names of who's in charge, who's in HR. They pose as someone in the company, and they get the HR people or the tech people to change the password for this particular person. So they actually turn over the keys. It's no great technological sophistication. It's psychological manipulation. And so the best security software is never going to stop this kind of thing. And companies and governments and all of us have got to do a better job of confirmation.
I think listening to you, the layperson reaction is, why aren't they behind bars?
Yeah, you know, unfortunately, with many of these, even if they're able to find out who they are, they're in countries like in Eastern Europe, in Russia, and they're operating these scams from there. And nowadays, they can operate these scams from anywhere in the world. And they can, even when they're talking with you, they can sound like they're right in your hometown, because AI is going to allow them to have their voices. So the FBI has done some pretty good work trying to find these groups, but for the most part, a lot of them are out of the country, and only rarely do we ever get a conviction.
Did you have to deal with this personally since you're a professor?
No, fortunately, my exams were not using Canvas, so I lucked out. It would have been pretty bad for the professor who works in white collar crime and scams to get burned with this.
My friend just teaches a small online class, and I think she said something like she had to enter in stuff manually. I don't know if that
Yeah,
makes sense, but
we are all spoiled in education today because, like everything else, we've become technologically dependent. And I mean, I'll give these exams in class that uh, will create the entire exam and grade the exam, and I just look at it. So, wow, we teachers had to do our own work.
on this education theme, student loan scams, it seems like this always happens around graduation time. What's some advice here? Don't fall for it.
Yeah, and the thing is, there was a period of time where there was forbearance on the collection of and the interest on student loans, but that has gone up, and so now you've got a lot of students who are kind of putting it off, who've got major loans that they do need to repay. And the scammers are jumping in there. Sometimes they'll have text messages and emails that look like they are affiliated with the federal government. Once again, you can't really rely on these. The key thing is when the scammers are there, they want an upfront payment, as many companies do, before they do the work. But the key here is that the law prohibits upfront payments for repayment of student loan assistance. So anytime a company contacts you and they want some money, forget about it. So you can go to the Department of Education website and they will have some help there as far as what kinds of programs you might be eligible for repayment. But you've got to be wary of any of these third parties that ask for either a prepayment or asking for your student loan information, because sometimes what they'll do is they'll get that and they'll get further student loans in your name. So what you want to do is just go right to the Department of Education and don't pay anything up front.
I remember years ago, I mean, like I'm talking 15 years ago, I interviewed this woman who got in this trap of a student loan debt relief, this scheme. And essentially, she paid a ton of money up front. But the promise was, and how they got her was they said they could shave off 30% of her student loans.
Yeah. And that's it. And they're preying on a vulnerable population. our brains jump at that opportunity rather than thinking it over.
Right, right. And I think I saw in your article 38 million people have student loans. I mean,
Oh, it's
that's
extraordinary.
astronomical.
And the amounts are huge. So it's the scammers have no problem taking advantage of this, of these victims.
Yes. Before I let you go, I also wanted to let you know I had a speaking engagement last week, and I was talking to a group of business owners and just some community leaders, things like that. And I got a question, and they said, "Is there a website we could go to read about scams?" And guess what I told them, Steve?
Ashley, you're a peach. Thank you so much.
Can you tell folks why you're so passionate about writing about scams each and every day?
Yeah, and the thing is, when I first started this 12, 15 years ago, I wondered if I'd have enough scams to do a new scam every day. And now, 5,500 scams later, they just keep coming. Um, a lot of it has to do with the fact that uh, I started out as an elder law attorney, and I still do that to some extent. And the elderly are preyed upon for scams a lot. And in fact, there actually is a physiological basis for that. There's a part of our brain that deals in skepticism that becomes less viable as we age. So seniors are more vulnerable to scams. And this is the idea of seniors being preyed upon really, really bothered me. And that was something that was an impetus. And then, quite frankly, I loved the stories. I mean, and before I taught at Bentley University, I actually taught in the state prison system, teaching college courses, and met some con men, and they're fascinating stories. But right now, there's a huge need across the board, individuals, companies, governments. It is a major international problem, and so that definitely has got my attention.
Well, I feel like you firmly believe it's all about being proactive. If we can get the word out, then fewer people will fall for it.
And that's it. And there are, sometimes the very last thing I tell in all of my speeches is going back to uh, my days in prison. My wife always says, remember, it's telling people when you were teaching in prison. And I had a student who was doing 2 consecutive life sentences, which meant that when he died, he would start his second life sentence. And I said, oh, I was always curious about that. He said, me too. When I got sentenced, I yelled at the judge, how do you expect me to do 2 consecutive life sentences? And the judge said, just do the best you can. And frankly, that's it. There are a lot of steps we can take, like dual factor authentication and really confirming things before we respond that can protect us a great deal and keep us from becoming the low hanging fruit. So, a word I invented was whelming. It's not quite overwhelming. It may be whelming, but we can deal with whelming.
I love it. Steve Wiseman with scamicide.com. Hey, thank you. Appreciate you.
Always, always great to talk with you.
Hey, thanks for watching or listening. We appreciate you being here, and we are here every week on Wednesday for Scam School. So thanks for clicking and stopping by. If you have a scam tip, just email me at areynolds, that's AREYNOLDS, at ky3.com. I'd love to hear from you. And, with this space, we have the time to really dive in on these scam tips. Whereas on the news, you get about 2 minutes a night, but here we can take a deep dive. And, the whole point here is to be proactive and to educate folks so they do not fall for scams. We'll see you next time.